Countdown is on for the next phase of U.S. Iran nuclear talks. Washington and Tehran working toward a broader agreement by August 17th under the Memorandum of Understanding. The no formal negotiations are on the calendar. Right now, Iran is staging days-long funeral ceremonies for its former supreme leader, raising questions about whether Tehran is genuinely pursuing a good deal or simply buying time to regroup. Retired four-star General Jack Keane joined me Sunday with his assessment of Iran's negotiating strategy. Watch this.
The reality is the Trump administration has gone into this with their eyes wide open. We're obviously in a major diplomatic phase here, and it will likely take some time. I suspect it'll go past the 60-day deadline that we currently have. But we have lots of leverage here. You mentioned part of it, holding back financing based on their achieving the goals of the clearly of the negotiation. You mentioned one. Ending their nuclear enterprise for sure. Restriction on ballistic missiles and support for proxies are the other two. I do think that the leverage we have with money, with also limited attacks and return to multi-combat operations, certainly has some impact on them. But it's also important, Cheryl, to recognize this from Iran's perspective. And what are they thinking? And they will use the Straits of Hormuz in the negotiations as their leverage and play it to their advantage to try to get as much concessions from the administration as possible. I think our negotiators understand everything I just said. And certainly going forward here is going to be some very tough, challenging negotiations dealing with the Iranians. We have significant leverage, but they believe they do as well.
Joining me now is former Trump State Department senior advisor and senior fellow at the Center for the National Interest, Christian Whiton. Christian, good morning. Do you agree with that assessment from the general?
Only in part, Cheryl. I think that General Keane is right that President Trump goes into this with eyes wide open because he knows the nature of the regime. But Vice President Vance, who has led the talks, really, if you look at his comments and other comments, and I don't know if this is coming from Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who've also been deeply involved in negotiations as intermediaries, seem to think that the Iranian government has reformers who want to liberalize, who want to put 47 years of acrimonious history behind him, not realizing that that is the actual essence of the regime. And this idea that there are moderates in the Iranian regime just waiting to take power, that's been around for a long time. That goes all the way at least back to the Reagan administration, which traded arms for hostages in an attempt to find moderates that didn't just exist. And there is a real cost to these talks. Iran, for the first time in decades, is able to trade oil in dollars and even to sell oil to U.S. companies should they choose to buy it. So that's a big concession that's putting money right in the pocketbooks of the people in Iran that we don't want to support.
Exactly. And especially when you've got, and this is something else the general said about, the fact that that tollway, that strait, that is their ticket, their golden financial ticket, and they're not letting go of that. In their minds, whether it's right or wrong, in their minds, they believe that they can control the strait and should control the state and charge for it. And that's obviously a red line for our administration. I want to ask you about what the president scheduled this week, because tonight he's going to be heading to Turkey for this week's NATO summit. And this follows separate calls with Russia's Putin, Ukraine's Zelensky to restart negotiations to end that war. Now, President Trump is expected to meet with President Zelensky on Wednesday. NATO allies are going to have to answer to their levels of defense spending and the future of America's role in European security. Former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates joined me on Sunday. She weighed in on what she sees as the broader strategic shift that is taking place right now with NATO. Listen.
I think there are going to be some tough conversations around Turkey's role. But the fundamental issue here is the sort of configuration of the United States global posture to take into consideration our obligations in the Middle East, in Latin America, in the Indo-Pacific, that are going to have to draw some of our attention away from Europe. And now that makes Europe very uncomfortable because in the 80 years after World War II, we've been that guarantor of inexpensive security for them. And now they not only have an emboldened Russia on their eastern front, they also have the United States saying, hey, you've got to step up and do more. So you've got Poland, Romania, the Baltic states all spending well over 5% of their GDP on defense. But it's the big ones, Cheryl. It's got to be the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, the big economies of Europe have to step up to that same level, or else we're not going to be able to take care of the rest of the world and let Europe take care of Europe.
And, you know, Christian, U.S. Ambassador Matthew Whitaker spoke with Fox News yesterday, and he said, we expect all allies to demonstrate meaningful upward trajectories in defense spending that results in a fair burden sharing. So this is the message going into NATO. That's the ask.
Right. I think that's more Trump 1.0, though, even though Whitaker, of course, is in the second administration. Trump 2.0 is recognizing that Europe, no matter how much it spends, and it's not going to meet its defense obligations, what it's committed to itself, just isn't that useful to the United States. I mean, he's livid, rightly so, about NATO's conduct during the Iran war, and there's no combination of words that can come out of Ankara this week that is going to change the fact that Italy and Spain not only didn't join us in the fight against Iran, but prohibited for using their airspace or our bases in their countries to access the battle space. Germany, it let us fly over, but led an international political coalition to try to undermine Trump. So out of this week, I think you're going to see maybe F-35 sales to Turkey. I mean, why not? We sell them to South Korea, which borders Russia, or is in the proximity of Russia, I should say. Perhaps some momentum because because Russia and Ukraine are stalemated now, you may actually have the conditions right for negotiations to occur.
All right. Well, we're going to be getting underway with that. Actually, tomorrow morning on this program, the president's going to be in Turkey. Now, the Trump administration says that a Christian leader detained by Chinese authorities, this is Pastor Jin, has been released. President Trump says he asked Xi Jinping about this during the summit, and this is a rare diplomatic breakthrough on human rights, really, between D.C. and Beijing. Pro-democracy activist Jimmy Lai, though, is still behind bars in Hong Kong. And this really does underscore the concerns about religious freedom, political dissent that we're seeing under the CCP. Christian, what did you make of this?
Well, I think it's important because a lot of people dismiss Trump as completely uninterested in things like human rights, but I think he greets it the same way a lot of Americans do, which is personification and understanding that this, in this case, a leader of an underground church in atheistic, communist-run China had significance and is something that the United States ought to be interested in, and certainly because of a lot of Americans being interested in it. You point out Jimmy Lai is still behind bars. He's the heavier lift because he's not just a religious figure, but a political figure. He created a pro-democracy newspaper in Hong Kong that was not soft on Beijing, that was unabashedly pro-democracy and was crushed by the government there. But this is something Trump has raised again and again. It cuts against this dismissive grain that Trump is transactional completely. I think he does take a long-term view that the relationship between the U.S. and China has to have political considerations and isn't just how many soybeans we can sell. So I think Trump deserves a victory lap, and I think he should keep it up because these, yes, it's a big step for China. On the other hand, it's just a polite thing to do because Trump has raised it repeatedly, and he has actually dialed back the tone of his rhetoric and some of the trade confrontation with China. So China ought to be giving him some concessions before the summit this September.
All right. Christian Whiton, it's always great to have you on the program. A lot to cover this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be right back, everybody.